This was in 2008, April 2008. And Dr. Eunice Al-Astar or deliver the sermon. Or see and check. Yabeko near Konka Rome. Now Rome no Krampono or can say and only the capital Crusader capital.
Okay.
So mo kai Crusaders was and you almost Konka. Now so almost free after one spread it to other parts of Europe. After one travel woman tabemu, Roma called the Americas.
Okay.
And you know, a young nation of Mumuna, Ombes or Mokano, and cleric also can. Here is second video.
Right. Your second video. Now, you and my messages in income. Was a good afternoon, heroes. Watching you live from EG. I'm Francis Agbemenya Edmond. Today is full of history. Offer is really taking me back to my middle school days. Okay, the holy people. On the hour they by. We just say, please, why is it that Arab countries are quiet about the historical operations of the Palestinians? They preach peace, but deceive Obuase. I don't know. So anyway, by Yanko here second video. Say axis of terrorism. Dr. Eunice Al-Astar. Dr. Eunice Al-Astar. Yanko here second video. No, edit aba.
From the Pandora's box of radical Islam had emerged a wave of Islamic terrorism aimed at so-called infidels.
وإذا كانت اليوم هي عاصمة الكاثوليك وعما قريب إن شاء الله ستفتح روما كما فتحت القسطنطينية ستكون عاصمتهم نقطة متقدمة للفتوحات الإسلامية التي تنساح في أوروبا كلها ثم تلتفت إلى الأمريكتين بل إلى أوروبا الشرقية.
Faced with the severity of the new threat, the targeted countries forged an alliance for self-defense and national security, and an international war on terrorism was launched.
Ofa, and I watch ya dear pa. Now of Israel can't say me no one know to I say enkamuso ya kwa no say manyosem sumo na ya no political religion bia sa omo no so omo te odin but omo ntwema manfo sa na je say ni nyina nkomra no ebo bi a omo epesa nkomo kohye na omoboa na nkomunya asase omonsanka no eno mo tan na na ba beduru ne ya na okay
now can say Islam a war political sana Zionism that is the political wing of Judaism.
Oh okay
and we nyina no political enema wo
yes
na so wo de esum e na ekodi asase wo dominate a wo de esumra e na ade echiche and you know religious political organization and you want to mean film
okay
ni nyina aka ho and ma bibia ekoso and you want Dr. Eunice Al-Astar yes about kan say enche you be call Rome because onu na some of can say Rome and Christianity and a person impede the progress of Islam.
Yes.
They are called and no be a post for Islam movement. And honor or mubefa or media fitting no ma conquer baby. On so na some all can. Say be say ye
waka
and brand the bench. And also no. Sounds no 2014. And sorry any at say you say terrorist group be a friend of ISIS.
Yeah, ISIS.
Oma peja o mumu. Ewo Syria ni Iraq wonum. Ama Iraq krambo de oma bona to form. Ama omo plan say won be create a caliphate. Caliphate ni Islamic State.
Okay.
Ewo Middle East wonum. Into almost tons of Christopher omo wo ewiase nyina se omo mra meko Emma woman means establish caliphate. I don't know. A very fresh year.
Papa bi ano say nkan Genesis 25 20 26 no.
Yeah,
you really feel. You really feel e kan na yabusa na asem. Or say ISIS leader calls on Muslims to build Islamic State. Daily Graphic 2nd July 2014. Of e kan. Or say the leader yeah. The leader of the jihadist militant group ISIS has called on Muslims to travel to Iraq and Syria to help build an Islamic State. In an audio message, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi called on Muslims to immigrate to the Islamic State, saying it was a duty. He made a special call for judges, doctors, engineers, and people with military and administrative expertise. ISIS says it is forming an Islamic State or caliphate on the on the territories it controls in Iraq and Syria. In an earlier audio recording this week, the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, that is ISIS, proclaimed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi as caliph and leader for Muslims everywhere. The central government and Baghdad has lost control of vast swathes of territory to Sunni militant led by ISIS over the past month. The group says its Islamic State will extend from Aleppo in northern Syria to Diyala province in eastern Iraq. Setting up a state-governed Islamic State under strict Islamic law has long been a goal of many jihadists.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in working can we are, you can hear a third video.
Okay.
Be a name, a name, a cook also.
Your third video, no, the rise of ISIL in Iraq. And no, your third video. Na answer the question video no message we no memfa entwam CCA emamo ye fa no ba ko petew or say the wiping away of Israel from the face of the earth was fulfilled by scripture in Psalm 83 verse 4. JB Peter 83 verse 4, right? I will say go ahead third video, the rise of ISIL in Iraq.
There is a power moving through the desert of Syria and Iraq faster than any invading army or sandstorm. Their influence and wealth grow by the day. Their acts of extremism and terror grow by the hour. Join me, Avi Oren, as we explore the Wahhabi terrorist group known as ISIS, the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, in this special edition of American Empire.
Calling for a state of emergency after hundreds of gunmen took control of strategic parts of the northern city of Mosul. Our senior international correspondent Nick Robertson tracking this story from Doha in Qatar for us. Nick, a stunning defeat for government forces, but really it hasn't come from nowhere. It's been building for months, from Anbar in the west to Samarra, Bukaba and Baghdad, now Mosul.
ISIS is a former affiliate with the terrorist network Al-Qaeda, who supported ISIS in Syria and Iraq until recently. The aim of ISIS is to install a caliphate, a Sunni region of Syria and Iraq where they can impose Sharia law and rule as its government. Although ISIS officially formed in 2007 as the Al-Qaeda affiliate ISI, the Islamic State of Iraq, they can trace their roots back to the invasion of Iraq by US forces in 2003. They achieved their notoriety during the civil war in Syria, where they now control hundreds of square miles of territory and villages. After amassing manpower, money, and weapons caches, ISIS now rivals the size, scope, and funding of many nations' armies. ISIS already controls vast amounts of land, military bases, including former US bases, and major cities across Iraq, and shows no sign of stopping. Although ISIS began its major combat operations in Syria in 2011, it has now begun its assault on Iraq.
An Iraqi city where some of the fiercest fighting took place in the early years of the Iraq War is now in the hands of forces linked to al-Qaeda. Insurgents have seized Fallujah in western Iraq. This is the worst violence against the Iraqi government since U.S. forces left the country in December of 2011.
In January 2014, a devastating force moved into the city of Fallujah, Iraq, and took control from the Iraqi government. Iraq's Anbar province was the scene of a bloody three-way war between ISIS, local tribes, and the Iraqi security forces for control of the city. During the chaos, ISIS stormed into the city and by nightfall on January 3, 2014, had raised its black flag on government buildings in Fallujah. Before that, Anbar province was the scene of some of the deadliest combat U.S. forces faced since the Vietnam War. An estimated one-third of the 4,486 U.S. deaths in Iraq were caused by al-Qaeda in Iraq, the main militant movement that would later spawn ISIS almost a decade later. Fallujah was then used as a staging ground for what can only be compared to as a blitzkrieg by ISIS forces 6 months later after its fall. The capture of Fallujah made headlines around the world, only to quickly fall by the wayside and into obscurity of the mainstream media and American social consciousness. In the 6 months since the capture of Fallujah, over 7,500 Iraqis have died in the sectarian violence heavily led by al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other Wahhabi militias. Since the capture of Fallujah, ISIS has blazed a path across the Iraqi desert, taking the cities of Mosul, Baji, Tikrit, Samarra, and are heading towards the cities of Jalula, with Baghdad as its ultimate goal.
This is not good, though.
It's not good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, though, too, is we're going to talk about Mosul and Tikrit, obviously on the way potentially to Baghdad. You say it's less about speed and more about momentum.
It really is. You know, when you talk about speed and the speed of the operations, the speed that concerns me was the collapse of the Iraqi military in the vicinity of Mosul and then en route to Tikrit. This is a major line of communications. You have to control this if you're eventually going to get to Baghdad,
right,
conducting operations from this location. So once you gain some speed vis-a-vis the enemy,
right,
it's all about momentum, and you're not going to stop. And that's what we see right now is ISIS increasing its rate of momentum.
Because I can say Wake Up Africa Jumadi na go social royal television so no here bom nkomo a na ye de ye videos ni bi ahyem na nsebe kana tima hyem kana na wate ase ya mo se nya boslim kana se bi tafrache ya na ye betra ha ebom eka koso afa message no efa 0200421723 0200421723 because I can see yankopon so adoma 24th July of apoku dankwa ene ne dom no agitwi no mabakumase eno ntimu a mo pese mo ba branches ahodo oboase fidase sunyane tachiman eni nkura ahodo ni nyina no mo ba frɛ eye coordinator brother Edu that was 0244580344 0244580344 mo frɛ na obeje mo so ana secretary owura same that was 0245030239 0245030239 obeje mo so na fe nhye bia no otumi edi so amaye kai se oba envelope ne de skana ehemu ha no de ha me de kire no unya sa be du na de hemu anu akata so na de aba wo se monje nko dwumadie no na bo akwa mi etwanya 3 hours program so over yakọ he your third video no e de aba which no achi no ebeka e video ba akọ na ye de asore afa ye nto dwumadie no so
ye to aso dia wa wo hu video no basabasa ye ne ma na ekoso na hadwi already nso na obi adikan aka say ebeko room nso ni akọ akoko ni age eho nso na afi ya tray entabensa enti na ase animu ya yedi enti no President Obama e kan say omo authority American ewiem omo best start na omo strike areas no a ISIS for no adiabosun
okay
na yebehwe na scandal edibai ebe so kan
okay
ha kakre ya
maybe amake no
maybe amama
also Obama authorizes Iraq airstrikes on Islamist fighters we had a scandal the Bokrata 11th August 2014 P2 and I make idea free to compare scandal paper ni be about 2014 August the na P2 na semiwo. Or see US President Barack Obama says he has authorized airstrikes against Islamic militants in northern Iraq but will not send US troops back to the country. He said Islamic State, that is IS, fighters would be targeted to prevent the slaughter of religious minorities or if they threaten US interests of Ampatchomidesi.
Why na Vatican so bad? Oh, me for so pa. Airstrikes need here pa.
Roman Vatican. Ebe for the Barack Obama can ye so.
Say enam dia man.
I say Islamic State, Vatican backs using military force.
Can
Wow.
Can
The Vatican Rome, Italy, March 15th, Daily Graphic, 16th March 2015 edition. And at the buyer. I said the Vatican says force may be necessary to stop attacks on Christians and other Middle East minorities by Islamic State if no political solution is found. Archbishop Salvano Tomasi, the Vatican's top diplomat at the UN in Geneva, said jihadists were committing genocide and must be stopped. The Vatican traditionally opposes military intervention in the region. It is initially, traditionally, more opposed the more
and the as what can know the last video.
Oh, okay.
Nafi. Kwakunsum rem no me details of Crusaders wars.
Yes.
And then
okay. Your last video no Vatican approves airstrikes in Iraq. Nansa ne kohwe sa video me pa chocho number ito ma me number no 0249647748 mi si sa number isu bi mtwe to ma me 0249647748 na ba ko account 0205053365 0205053365 na de nti acho number we nya ne se me pa chocho so po na board dan so afre sa number no me board dan so ma o mo nchense papa de board dan so empa kala bia opebia nchansin bia wate din pense de bodan so a ema dan na eye fa bia no sa adwumakoi na osan nchansin no mo wone papa so a o metumi dia boso ma wa ebo ne da fom e bia wusi dan no eso bo ne hunhuna kakra o estimate be pacho tumirika na fa kodan sa adwumakoi from ozo roofing make us say me bodi na wabo trinko o mo na be bodan no so ama bibia konkan e de ama wo tiko akoma to yam se ndua ana pese udi good dan so ana se nem abefo na de abe di good dan so bia na pese de boso a ni nyina ozo roofing be amount baby a Ghana bia no from mo de abasahare so beba aba baye odwuma because mo branches e o mantem do nse ni nyina enam nyuma papa nti from ozo roofing o mo na bodan so a o se ampa ya bodan so amount yanko share your last video no say Vatican approves airstrikes in Iraq your fourth and last video you share for the day no
Move says that it will support the use of airstrikes against ISIS militants, and that breaks a long-standing position of disapproving war. They released this statement: military action might be necessary, and quote, intervention now, before it is too late.
Archbishop Silvano Maria Tomasi, who made this statement, is the permanent observer to the UN in Geneva, and the Vatican is endorsing war. But she cleverly says it is to protect the persecution of Christians in Iraq. But what does this mean for the future when the two kingdoms' Secretary of States meet to discuss peace, when they are both endorsing war?
Honorable John Kerry, Secretary of State.
Your Holiness, I am so pleased to meet you. Great admirer of everything you have been doing as a Catholic for the Church and for everyone. Thank you so much. God bless you.
I know any Samoa Opanino Ekai Ofa. Bonoto for my na you raise ho. What you do and
yaw
Ofa.
Ya more reasons in tia the king of the south. I bet to the canny.
Okay.
Na me be we kura mpono. Ubeka ya America in 2020 and Iran, War Revolutionary Guard IRIG no one commander